Hello everyone, this is Edwin Dearborn here on Facebook Live, and today I want to talk to you about failing to plan, and failing to plan, per Benjamin Franklin, is planning to fail. Very true words by this great American forefather. And not only was he a great American forefather, but Benjamin Franklin, if you know anything about him, was an extremely successful entrepreneur and statesman and author. And Benjamin Franklin's insight of over 250 years ago still holds true today in the business world. When you fail to plan, you are planning to fail, wittingly, unwittingly, consciously, subconsciously, intentionally or non-intentionally. I recently wrote an article yesterday which appeared in LinkedIn and Quora on this very subject. My article on LinkedIn has now been viewed over 2,000 times in over 30 countries. It's been shared over 100 times. I've gotten retweets and comments from people from Europe, New Zealand, Asia, all over the United States, because the subject really resonated with people about not only the failure to plan, but primarily the areas of life and business where the failure to plan really strikes home more areas. Now, in my article and in this Facebook post, I want to call something to your attention. In the article, I point to the fact that according to Bloomberg, something like 70% of American businesses that start fail within their first 18 months. 70%. There's a dramatic amount of failure in business, yet this is something we need to address because small businesses are the backbone of the American economy. So if we've got the backbone of the American economy having the majority of those businesses fail within 18 months, there's a lot of work to do, and that would be a correct target in terms of helping the American economy. Help American small businesses and you help the American economy. So, what is the failure to plan? Now, I am not talking about the business plan that you write and submit to the bank to get a loan. Because what I have found is that plan never gets used. That's just the BS plan that you hire someone to write to make it look like you have a plan. And I beg you to do this exercise or drill the next time you're talking to a small business person that is struggling or going bankrupt. And I don't mean just struggling because they started out. I mean, look, it takes a couple of years to build a business. So I understand if you're in your first 18 months, maybe even your first 36 months, it's touch and go. I get that. But I'll tell you what really exacerbates the situation, even for those that have been in business longer than those years, and that is not having a plan. So I'm going to give you a little insight on how I start a discussion when I am consulting a business, when I'm asked to coach. So it typically starts out with, let's meet for coffee, or why don't you come by my office and why don't you tell me what you do? Now, typically, a consultant at this point would try to make themselves sound very important, talk about all their credentials, all their effective actions they take, their success stories, and what they do, and go on and on and on and try to sell them on what they do. And I take a different tact when I am pitching, if you will, when I am trying to sell somebody my services, whether it's coaching services or organizational services, or in particular marketing services to help them generate more customers. So they'll ask me what I do, and I turn the tide on them and I ask them, number one, how ambitious are you to grow? Because if you don't have ambition, an intense desire, a want for the product, an ambition, it doesn't matter what plans I give you. You've probably seen this in athletes. When the athlete gives up, it doesn't matter how good his coach is or how good his game plan is. He's given up. And when business people give up, when they give up their ambition or enthusiasm, it doesn't matter what you tell them, what you advise them on, because they've given up. So that's the first thing I have to check is, before I tell them all these tactics and strategies that do work when implemented, and implemented consistently, keyword consistently, guess what? If they don't want to do it, if they don't want to be consistent, if they don't want to work hard, it doesn't matter what I tell them. So I have to check that. The second thing I ask them is, and this is so critical, I can't even stress this enough, and I'm telling you, this is where all is revealed. Simple question. Can I see your written business and or marketing plan that you use? 99% of the time, the people who are struggling, going bankrupt, completely stressed, in grief, or apathy, or anger, or somewhere below on the emotional tone scale, they don't have a plan. So, based on those wise words from Benjamin Franklin, their failure to plan became their plan to fail. Simply the omission of the plan was the seed that grew into failure. Failure is never the problem. Failure is the manifestation of the actual source of the problem. So I don't talk about all the failures and all the people that have failed. What I want to know is, do we have a plan? And I want to tell you a story that I did with a client that I have here in Henderson, Nevada. Hired me as soon as I moved here a few months ago, found me on YouTube, discovered that I did coaching services, needed help with his business development, his digital presence, his branding, and basically how do I generate more customers? So I did the same thing, Number one, how ambitious are you? I'm very ambitious. I want to make my company into a $10 million company. Great. Can I see your business plan, your marketing plan that's going to turn this company into something that will be sellable for $10 million? Don't have one. So it's a dream, and you're working hard, and you still have your ambition, but you have no plan on how to get there. Like, zero plan. So guess what? He's working hard every day, sitting there, if I just keep the dream alive, someday, magic rain will come out and someone will recognize the genius of my company and they'll invest and give me $10 million. And you and I know that that is a pipe dream. So I said, okay, we're going to write a plan. Okay. The first thing we're going to establish is your purpose in building this company. Just you. Why do you want to build a $10 million company? What's the purpose of you and the purpose of your business to take it there? And I tell you, it took us a good hour to get why he wanted to build. See, he just I want it, but he really didn't articulate, starting within the plan, why his business should be a $10 million company. And then what's the goal of this company? Thirdly, we had to assess the resources. How are you going to get there? What do you start with? What do you have? And I don't know if you remember that movie with Tom Hanks, where he's on the island, Castaway, right? And Tom Hanks, he's got an ice skate, he's got a volleyball, he's got a few items that have washed up, right? And I tell people, that's kind of like you. You're kind of like Tom Hanks on the island, and you've got a few items. But guess what? He takes that ice skate, he pulls out his own tooth, he makes the volleyball into his friend to stay somewhat sane, He builds himself a little raft, and he gets found, and eventually he gets back home. See, he always had that purpose. He always had that ambition to get back home. And all the lack of tools didn't matter. He had to wield what he did have into getting to where he wanted to go. And this is what businesses don't do. They do not sit down and assess what they have access to. Business people and people in general love to talk about what they don't have. Oh, if I only had $1 million. Oh, if I just won the lottery. Oh, well, if I knew, if Grant Cardone would just, endorse me. Oh, if I only had an MBA. They love to point out all the things that they don't have access to. And all the things that you don't have access to will never help you move forward. So you, like Tom Hanks, have to look on your little deserted island, and some are more deserted than others, and you have to go, okay, what do I have? And for a business, this can be, who do I know? What knowledge do I possess? What access to what technology do I have? What partnerships do I already have or could form immediately? What access to credit or resources, funding-wise, do I have? Where can I operate? How many followers on social media do I have? Who's on my list that I could talk to? What associations do I belong to that I could leverage better? See, and so when I start to assess these resources, all of a sudden the lights begin to turn on and they're like, oh, right. I've got an email list, I've got followers, I've got friends, I belong to this alumni, I belong to the Henderson Chamber, right? And all of a sudden we start to see the pieces, we start to see, staying with the analogy of Tom Hanks, we start to see our ice skate and our volleyball and our sticks and our rope and all the things that we do have that we can start building something to get to where we want to go. Now that we have a full assessment of these things, we can now develop the tactics on how to leverage said assets and resources to move us towards said goal. Point B. Point A is we're on the island with Wilson. We're on the island with Wilson and an ice skate and not much more. And point B is getting back home to America. Okay. You show me a business that is struggling, or an entrepreneur or a startup, and I guarantee you these factors are absolutely missing. So the guy that hired me in Henderson, so I asked him, and you'd think that they would know this, right? I said, you've been in business, for 3 or 4 years. What have you done so far? We're now assessing the resources. What have you done so far that's been successful and generating business? We're going to list out every one of them. Do you know it took him time to actually think? What has grown my business? No knowledge, no assessment of how he got the business that he got. He's had no diagrams, no analysis, no charts, nothing. Do you get this? He has just been trying stuff, and not differentiating between this worked, that didn't work. This was successful, and hence should be enforced and strengthened. This didn't work, and I'm throwing it away. And I'm not putting another dollar into it. And guess what? I found when we sorted out what worked versus what didn't work, he was putting his money, his marketing money, into things which have proven to not work. Still to this day, he was still funding marketing actions which have proven to generate zero business. And the ones that were proving to actually generate business, he was spending no money on. So he's pouring all of his money, not much, but it's what he had. He was pouring what he had money into things that produced nothing, while these 3 or 4 actions which have built his business went starving. That was revealing to the gentleman. So not only did we assess the resources, we assessed also the paths and the actions and the activities that produced affluences, and also we spotted actions which were a drain of financial resources that produced nothing, thus keeping him in a lower condition of sales. Okay, now that we assessed what did work, we knew what to invest in the money. So I started asking him questions about his online presence. He has a website. I go, have you gotten business from your website? Yes, I have. Have you put any money into your website? No, I haven't. I had my nephew build it 3 years ago, and we did an analysis of it. It was just a crappy website. And even though it was a crappy website, he was making money from it, putting nothing into the website, even though it was being found somehow. And he was putting all this money into Yelp and putting money over here, and all this hundreds and hundreds of dollars a month. It was doing absolutely nothing. Nothing. Yet he kept pouring money into it. So guess what we did? We found 3 to 4 actions that did work. We turned off all the funding of what wasn't working, even though he was hoping it was going to work, and we started investing in what was working. And guess what's going to happen? Right? Then we took a look at, like, well, what assets could you be leveraging that you wouldn't have to spend any money on, that could grow your business by just your own effort, by the dent of your personality? What are some marketing actions that we know have worked for others in your space? Now we're assessing, we're analyzing what's worked for others that he doesn't do. And all of a sudden, well, we had no reviews on Google or Yelp. Guess what? Within about 2 weeks, we generated about 6 positive reviews just by calling people and going, hey, I want to put myself out on the comm lines of the world, right? And guess what? We started generating reviews, and we're building a presence on these sites that cost absolutely nothing. But see, he didn't look at that as a resource. His Google My Business page, which was a resource, he was doing nothing with. His Yelp page, which he had, he didn't look at that as a resource. See, this is something he had that he did not know how to use. Now, as he grows and generates more business, we've also put something else in the strategy. And guess what we're going to do? We're going to take 15% of the money and put it into only those proven actions which have generated, with a small portion of that to test potential, but never distracting the main body of marketing money to those things. So maybe out of that 15%, we spend 12% on absolute known actions that have proven to work, and we spend 3% of that on actions that may grow it, and as they prove to be successful or not, we keep or remove them. This is all written in a 4-page strategy. So now guess what? Not only put order into this man's life and focus on what's important, what works, he now has what a chef would call a recipe. He has a known checklist of actions that he can look at, refer, stay focused on, and every day work on. And he can look at that checklist on a daily basis and go, what can I put on my daily battle plan that will forward this overall strategic plan? Let's take a look at this. And he keeps referring to it, this action plan. And he takes little actions. There's a Japanese philosophy called Kaizen. K-A-I-Z-E-N, Kaizen. You can look it up in the dictionary. And it means to make small improvements on a continuous basis. Small, tiny, continuous improvements over time create a very big improvement. Right? So you want to become literate? Learn a new word a day. In 2 days, you've only learned 2 new words. In 3 years, you learned over 1,000 words. See, that's the Kaizen philosophy that could take an illiterate person and make them sound like a very educated person by just daily, every day, having them learn with total certainty 1 word. Even if the word is a or the, right? Simple words. And then as he gets to simple words, he takes a little bit more complex words. and then a little bit more and a little bit more. And over 5 to 10 years, guess what? This guy sounds like a PhD because we applied the principle of Kaizen. We can do the same thing with business by making small improvements every single day. And not only small improvements, but more importantly, small improvements he can do. Small improvements he will do. Small things that become small accomplishments. And you know what happens when you have small accomplishments over and over and over? They become big accomplishments and have big results. So if you need help putting together your plan for your marketing or for your business, you should contact me or learn the subject. There's plenty of materials out there to learn it. But if you're looking for an executive and business coach that has taken a lot of businesses through this process, I have my own plans. Not only do I write my own annual marketing and business plan, which I actually use, but then I write a weekly battle plan against this overall plan of how to move it forward. And even the business is tough, I'll admit it. It's not easy. There are bad days. But I have a plan. I don't sit there and go into apathy and go, people suck. That's not my reaction to it. My thing is to hit the drawing board, planning, review my condition, see what I can sharpen up, see how I can get better. So when you have that, you become proactive, you become cause by pushing targets you can't accomplish. Hope you got some value out of this. This is Edwin Dearborn. Look forward to helping you in the future with your business, your marketing, and your revenue growth. Talk to you soon. Bye-bye.